Hi friends, it's Kate from nature-tribe.org, and I know a lot of you already realize what's going to happen at Parrish Park. That is that really pretty little sandy beach just after you cross the Max Brewer Bridge on your way to either Playa Linda Beach or the Wildlife Refuge. A lot of people gather there every weekend pretty much to do kite surfing, windsurfing, launch kayaks, jet skis, etc., or just to be out at a beach, hanging out with their friends, maybe barbecuing or something. But that's all going to change because it's already been decided that a lot of it will be paved over. There'll be a certain amount of parking spaces and an access road, and there'll be bollards that keep you from, backing up your car or whatever onto the beach. And a lot of us spoke against that at the city council meeting, and we didn't get anywhere because they don't really listen to citizens. But I recently found out exactly how that whole thing came about, and it's a pretty shocking story, so I'm going to share that with you. So it all started when this lady, Mary Ellen Donner, got a grant for $2 million, and it was to improve, and I'm using air quotes when I say that, Parrish Park. But in December of 2020, this lady, Mary Ellen Donner, went before the Board of Adjustments and Appeals in Titusville, and she asked for 2 variances so that she basically didn't have to follow the zoning rules. And that meeting is really interesting because, well, I'm going to just let you watch it for yourself.
Tonight we're going to talk about variance number 19-2020 at one Max Brewer Memorial Parkway. The agenda item starts on page 9 of 159, and I will start by reading the variance request. The applicant, Jason Kellogg, P.E. of CPH Inc., is requesting the following variances for purposes of constructing a parking lot on property located in the Public P zoning district located at 1 Max Brewer Parkway, also known as Parrish Park. The first variance being requested is to section 30-63, shoreline protection setbacks, to allow a variance to the 50-foot shoreline setback requirement. The second variance is to section 30-332A, required landscape yards, to allow a variance to the 20-foot landscape yard requirement adjacent to a public right-of-way. The third variance is to section 30-335A, description of landscape yards, to reduce the tree planting requirements.
So I know you won't watch this if it's too long. I cut out most of the wordage where they just talk about page this, page that of the plan. But the gist is that they want to have 2 different variances so they don't have to follow the setback rules. And also they don't want to plant any of the trees they had promised to plant before. And they're going to reduce the number of parking spaces to only 40. And I want you to see what our local eco-warrior queen, Laura Lee, has to say about this. And yes, I did take a picture of this black skimmer bird there at Parrish Park.
All right, Laura Lee Thompson, 3550 Irwin Avenue. And I have grown up on the causeway. I mean, my entire life I've spent on that causeway, and I've watched it, I've watched us lose 30, 40 feet of shoreline over my lifetime, and it's getting worse. But, if I'm going to address the variances that they're asking for, I'm okay with the reduction in the shoreline protection area, because if they don't get that reduction, they can't do what they're going to do. And, I guess I'm okay with, I'm not okay with the reduction in the landscaping and the requirement for overstory trees. And I spoke to Marcia in Commissioner Pritchett's office yesterday, and she said, oh, well, we don't want to plant canopy trees there because it might interfere with people that are going to watch the launches. So I get that, but I don't want to allow them to get away with taking away the ability to plant trees, because if we ever can figure out how to do the shoreline restoration there and add sand back to the beach so we can get it back to the way it was, then we're going to need sable palms to be able to help stabilize the shoreline. We'll need sable palms, mangroves, So, you know, maybe you can hold that that request to not plant trees and leave it as like money in the bank. You know, they can come back if we can get the shoreline restored. Then they, you know, they have the money. It's in the $2 million grant. They're supposed to plant trees. Let them save the trees until later, till we can get the shoreline restored. You asked about the usage. I have a video that I took on the Sunday before Memorial Day 2019. There was over 250 cars on the north side of the causeway, and the causeway, it's the window to the river for people who can't afford a house to live on the river or can't afford a big boat. They have jet skis, they have kayaks, they have windsurfers. Our causeway is the only causeway on the entire east coast of Florida that has a very unusual northeast-southwest orientation. Look at Google Earth. Look at every causeway on the east coast of Florida. They all have an east-west orientation. So that northeast-southwest orientation makes our causeway the best place for wind sports on the entire east coast of Florida. So you've seen the kiteboarders out there and the windsurfers. They watch the weather. They come from all over the state when the conditions are right, because our causeway is the best place for those kind of sports. They need a beach. They can't launch their boats from rocks. And my concern, and hearing him just say, oh, it'll be like a seawall. My God, that's the worst thing that we could have, is a seawall. Look at what happens when you put a seawall in. When the waves crash into it, it's like a washing machine, and the water goes like this, and the seagrass won't grow, and the wildlife doesn't, you don't see. Go to the causeway this winter and look, you'll see hundreds of birds standing on the sand. With the cars drive by, they get up, they fly away, and then they come back and they land again. When you put the pavement in, those birds aren't going to have a place to stand. And we've got the federally endangered red knot, federally threatened wood stork, and then state threatened black skimmer, roseate spoonbill, little blue heron, least tern, reddish egret, and tricolored heron are all using our causeway. And also, it is the most significant horseshoe crab nesting beach in the state. The Titusville Causeway, especially the southeast side of it, and that little beach right on Gator Creek Dike Road, we counted over 70,000 horseshoe crabs there last year. There's no other place in Florida that can touch the numbers of horseshoe crabs that we have here. Our causeway is the gateway to the third most visited national wildlife refuge in the nation. And people are coming here to see wildlife. And they stop on our causeway on the way out to the refuge and go crazy at the birds that are standing there and the spawning horseshoe crabs. And when the horseshoe crabs spawn, the shorebirds come in by the hundreds. And all of that is going to change with this park-like entity that's going to go in. We have to protect the beach. And my problem with this is that the county has no plan for any kind of shoreline restoration. I'm not sure what their maintenance plan is for the pervious concrete that's going in. It has to be pressure washed regularly, or it clogs up with sand and oil, and then the water doesn't percolate in it. So I'm not sure what their maintenance plan is, whether the county has enough money to I don't know what that is. But we are going to reduce the access to the river by, the original drawings I saw had 62 parking spaces on it. So tonight I hear that it's now down to 40. So you think about 250 cars, all these families coming over from Orlando, spending money in our community, and loving the fact that they have access to the river. Our causeway is the only causeway in Brevard County that has a long stretch of sandy beach. Think about all the other causeways that you drive across. They have rocks and boulders and construction debris on both sides, and there's no wildlife. There's no seagrass growing. So these are things that really concern me. I don't want to be the naysayer that stops the project and risks the chance of losing $2 million, but I would like to hear some commitment from Parks and Recreation that they're going to look for grants, and we have the opportunity to have a demonstration, the biggest demonstration in the county of a shoreline, how to do a shoreline right. Instead of every time we get a storm, we bring in dump truck loads of road debris and dump it on the shoreline. And we have to protect that shoreline. We have the most special causeway in the whole entire state. And I don't want to see, the improvements ruin what we have there now. There has to be some kind of partnership or something, but there's grants for shoreline restoration. We missed the opportunity. We could have put sand in if we'd have reacted. If the county had reacted, they had 1 year after Hurricane Irma to bring in, with no permits, replace the sand that was lost during Hurricane Irma. Nothing happened. So that window of opportunity is closed. But I believe that because of the wildlife that uses our causeway, we have an opportunity to get some grants and put our beach back the way it was. Thank you.
And now let's hear some of what Tony Shivelo has to say about the importance of horseshoe crabs. This might surprise you.
So I will start with a project with which I am involved, the University of Florida's study to document and protect the survivability of horseshoe crabs in the Indian River Lagoon. The north shore of Parrish Park, which is in consideration to become a parking lot, is documented as a prime breeding shore for tens of thousands of horseshoe crabs. Now, these crabs are ancient and important species because they are used in biomedical testing. An extract from their blood is used to test the purity of all injectable vaccines and medicines and internal prosthetics. If you've ever had a vaccination or had a surgery, horseshoe crabs have helped you, especially now in the midst of the pandemic and the need for pure vaccines. The horseshoe crab blood will be highly utilized. As for erosion of the shoreline, which Laura Lee mentioned, the fix in the traditional and unecological method employed by the county is to bring in concrete debris and spread it along the shoreline, thus killing its use by the horseshoe crabs for breeding. They need the sand, they need the waves, they need the wind to blow them up even further onto the sandy shore so they can lay their millions of eggs. It will kill the use by the horseshoe crabs for breeding and also end the use by the many local and visiting water users who congregate all week and by the hundreds on weekends to launch jet skis, kayaks, and windsurfers. Families who come to swim, picnic, fish, and walk the beach. Because the proposed parking lot will limit the use to the first 40 vehicles able to park in the designated parking spaces, thus limiting access, funded by something that I find rather ironic. What was it? It was the federal access to the land. As it exists now, this strip of Parrish Park is multifunctional, used by citizens for recreation, and by horseshoe crabs for breeding, for birds which feed on the millions of crab eggs, and those of us who like to just relax on a dark evening watching the stars without interference of street lights, which are also proposed by this park improvement. For the safety of the horseshoe crabs, for the joyful use by residents and tourists, and to not add to the degradation of the Indian River Lagoon, I urge you to deny the request to ignore setbacks to allow this travesty of civic money use to happen. Let Parks and Rec find better ways and other places to spend these dollars by reclaiming ecologically other waterfront along the Indian River Lagoon instead of ruining an enjoyable, functional, natural ecological area. Don't let them turn our beach into a parking lot. Thank you.
The next part of this video was some of the folks who work for City of Titusville, as well as this lady who's head of Parks and Rec, trying to rebut some of the things that Laura Lee and Tony had said. But most of what they said made absolutely no sense at all. And I'm not even going to bother to show you that, but watch this next part is super interesting. I don't know who this lady is on the Board of Adjustment and Appeals, but I am loving her. The lady with the dark hair and glasses. Watch how she goes after them.
The slogan for Titusville is Gateway to Nature and Space. Nature is there on the way to the space station. I mean, I can't help but think, are there alternate options available? If the basis is safety and traffic, which I do not consider a viable basis today based upon the evidence that was presented, there's been no study or statistics to show that safety is an actual concern. There is no credible or substantial evidence to that effect today. Regarding the stormwater and the erosion, there was plenty of competent testimony. I don't think we have enough information on that, but that was certainly a substantial amount of testimony. Are there alternate options available? And that's what my last question that I had asked, and I didn't really get a clear answer on that. I mean, we're talking about paving perfectly beautiful land in complete violation of the code, which is also half-cocked considering that the other side of the street is not even being touched by this application. And if what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I have grave concerns about granting this variance in complete, I mean, this is not 5 feet variance, it's not a 10-foot variance. This is a complete ignoring the code. I had just pulled up, I was not familiar with FLAP, the Federal Lands Access Program. Looking at their website, which is through the Highway Department of Transportation, it was established to improve transportation facilities that provide access to, are adjacent to, or located within federal lands. The access program supplements state and local resources for public roads, transit systems, and other transportation facilities with an emphasis on high-use recreation sites and economic generators. There are a lot of people, and to be honest, I'm surprised we only had 3 people speak against, well, 2 people against and 1 person, I believe neutral was the classification. I'm shocked to know that there was only that many people that spoke on this today. I don't know how well it was advertised to the general public, but I'm shocked because I expected this room to be full with the 100 people that are sitting on that beach every single weekend. I don't think there's a good enough reason. I think this completely violates the spirit of the code in general, but the spirit of the code. And I do not see a single criteria on the list that grants us an opportunity to grant this variance today. And to be honest, I'm shocked that staff recommends granting this continuance. I was shocked to see that.
I have to agree that there has not been enough investigation into alternative methods than just changing the entire feel, the look of that area. Just go in, wipe it away, leave 10 foot of beach, and that's it. I think that there just hasn't been enough alternative options investigated.
You'll have to ask if someone wants to allow you to talk. The public hearing is closed at this time.
I understand. I request the chair to address you with, you had questions specifically about the grant and the project that we have not previously answered.
Is it the feeling of the board that they'd like to hear this information?
While I've asked plenty of questions that I did not get answers to the first go around, I would like to hear them. So I will move the chair to allow this witness,
All right.
one witness to answer these questions.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Yes.
So the grant, the LAP grant, was submitted to the state of Florida through the federal, and it was very specific in what was approved based on the plans. So this is the only money we have to do anything at this juncture. There's no more available funding in any other place other than this particular grant. And I wanted to make sure, I don't know that it makes any difference. I don't know that the state of Florida would allow us to change what has been accepted.
So there you have it. The real deal here is that they want the $2 million grant. They want the money. And my understanding is that the grant was obtained by stating that it was to provide better access to Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge. It will not do so, and Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge did not want these changes to be made. 3 members of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals were against it, and they voted to table the final decision to February 2021 to give Mary Ellen Donner and the firm that was going to do the work time to improve their design. Instead, Mary Ellen Donner and CPH, the firm doing it, they did not improve their design. They convinced the City Council to say that the Board of Adjustments and Appeals could not review the project anymore. And they decided that the City Council could rule on the environmental destruction and loss of uses of Parrish Park in order to get the grant money. So Mary Ellen Donner, Robin Fisher, and Virginia Barker, went before City Council and discussed that Titusville should allow 0 variances and not plant any shoreline protection. Many, many citizens were there at that meeting and objected, but the government won and approved the destruction. City Council passed the 0 variances with a unanimous vote. City Council made it clear that they did not value the recommendations of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals or the Titusville Environmental Council, since they would not allow them to state their objections in that public meeting. So there you have it, folks. This is how our government works in Titusville. If this makes you mad, if you wish we could have Parrish Park the way it is, the way we all enjoy it, and certainly the way that the horseshoe crabs need it to be in order to survive, let City Council know how you feel about this and share this video as much as you can. And go to www.nature-tribe.org and join Central Florida Nature Tribe on Facebook, and let's put up a fight.